our target audience overall is small business owners. But when we pull out that customer avatar, it's actually more granular than just small business owner. For us, we could be talking to that small business owner that has a full-time job and they're on the side building this business. Okay, well, we have the marketing resources that's going to help them to eventually be able to leave that job.
Hey everyone, welcome to the S.O.B Marketing Podcast, where we celebrate the S.O.B that you are, and if you haven't figured it out yet, we mean small-owned business. We don't mean S.O.B.
Listen, we know that as a small business owner, you are working hard on the daily to keep your business fully operational while trying to promote it. And while some days it may feel like the business is owning you, if we're being honest with each other, I bet you would admit that you wouldn't give up the insanity for anything.
Our commitment here at the S.O.B Marketing Podcast is to give you the real talk, what works when it comes to advertising, marketing, promoting your business, and then what doesn't really work.
And Chelsea and I promise to always keep the conversation real. We're back. Welcome back to another episode of the S.O.B Small Owned Business Marketing Podcast. I'm joined by my lovely baby sister Chelsea over here today.
Hello. You're joined by me every single time, but okay, thank you.
I know. Well, it's a joint effort podcast here.
Yes.
For those of you that it's your first time tuning in, I call Chelsea my little baby sister because we do have a 15-year age gap. She is, in fact, a full-ass grown woman. But I will forever refer to her as my baby sister for that reason. Little bit of housekeeping before we get into our exciting marketing topic that we're going to cover today. If you have not already done it, leave us a review. That helps to get this podcast in front of other small-owned businesses who need marketing support and who need a marketing resource, and we want to be that to them. So go ahead, leave us a review. It helps us out tremendously. Also, don't forget we have a TLDL section, Too Long Didn't Listen. That's a chapter in this podcast episode. If you are on the run, short on time, go ahead and fast forward to that TLDL section. Chelsea's going to give you the meat and potatoes of the conversation. And then when you have time, you're going to come back and listen to the full length episode because that's just what you do as a small business owner, right? So you want to get those contacts in that conversation, and we want to, ensure that you guys get to hear that full length conversation. So, Chelsea, what topic are we covering today?
Well, Vivian, if you are not new here, you guys, then you have probably heard us say that you need to know your target audience. That's like the number one rule of marketing is know who your target audience is. Who are the people who are interested in your products or services who would actually make a purchase, right? And so today we are going to talk about customer avatars, what they are, how to go about building one, and why it's important.
Yeah, so let me give you guys a little bit of a visual because y'all know I'm a visual girl. Um, let's say that you're playing one of those claw machine games. I don't know what they're called, Chelsea. All
A
right.
claw
So
machine.
is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Okay. You're playing one of those. Your target audience is the collective group, right? It's all those little stuffed animals in there. And so it's important to identify your target audience because as a small business owner, you need to know how to reach that collective group of people. When you are creating a customer avatar, you're essentially taking that little claw in there and you're picking out one of those little stuffed animals and you're bringing it out. And now you are dissecting, I don't mean that in a weird way, but you are putting attributes to that person. You're building a 3D, I don't know, maybe it's 5D actually. You're building a dimension around that person, right? You're giving them what attributes, you're giving them interest. You're just really finding out more about that person because in order to speak to the collective group, you have to be able to speak to that one person. Customer avatar, Chelsea, what different components is it comprised of? Do you want to like maybe give us a list of the components and then we'll go through each one of them?
Absolutely, I can do that. So, your customer avatar should include some basic demographics, some psychographic traits, goals and aspirations, brand value alignments, habits, language and tone, and personality traits.
All right, so it sounds like to start off with, the first one we're gonna be talking about is the regular good old, what do you call it?
Basic demographic.
Basic demographics. Y'all know what this is. This is probably what you're doing right now.
Actually, yes, this is likely what you have done, and I'm not trying to call y'all out, okay? But you've probably done your basic demographics and went, I understand my target audience, which is not wrong. It's not right either.
You could go deeper. That's what we're
Yes.
saying.
Yes, go deeper because when you really have that clear understanding of your audience, that's when you connect with them on a deeper level. Vivian, whenever I create a customer avatar, I actually like to do one specific thing first, and not everyone does it, and you definitely don't have to. But in my personal opinion, it really elevates the work that you're doing when creating this avatar, and it's actually naming the persona.
Oh, it's like you're not gonna know what this is. Back in the day, we used to have these little things called Tamagotchis.
How young I mean, thank you that you think I'm young, but, like, I'm 27.
You
Well,
know
I'm
what a
26 right now. I know what a Tamagotchi is.
so did you ever first, did you ever have one?
Well no.
Okay, and second of all, uh, I knew a lot of people that named 'em.
Mhm.
So it's kinda like having your own Tamagotchi, you guys. Now you're naming your customer avatar. I love that you bring this up because it is not something that everybody does.
Yeah.
I typically don't do this, but it makes sense to me that you would include this as your first step because one of the, not related, but on a similar vein to this,
Mhm.
I've been on YouTube for a long time now, and we all know that I'm a little stuffy. I have a problem with just kind of letting loose and letting my personality shine. And so one of the things that I've recently started doing is actually incorporating and saying the name of a friend before I record or before I say the sentence or the paragraph, and the reason I do that is because it changes my tonality and the way that just kind of relaying the message. So, for example, I'll be like, "Karen, the best example of a blah, blah, blah," right? Or, "Lydia, there are 3 things that are wrong with marketing plans, da, da, da." And so it does help when you're attaching a name to it because it definitely personifies,
Yes.
right?
And also, pro tip, when you're creating any form of content, this is a great thing to do. I have a specific client that I help her create her short form content, her video marketing. And whenever she's stumbling or something like that, I tell her, talk to me.
Mhm.
Tell me what you're trying to say, or act like you're talking to a customer. How do you explain this to them when they ask you this question?
So you know what I'm thinking now that you've taught me this little trick about, like, actually naming your customer avatar, once I've developed this whole, like, persona, then I can start using that name, whatever name I give them, before I hit record on a YouTube video because essentially that's the one person that I'm targeting. I'm hoping, yes, I'm collectively targeting small business owners, but also we're not for every small business owner, right?
Yeah.
We're not for the small business owner that has like 20 employees. For us, we really want to be able to help the small business owner that maybe it's like them and 1 or 2 other people, right? They have a limited resources and a lean team and all that, and so I do think this could help a lot when I'm creating content and using their name.
Well, good. I'm glad. So, this was a long way to get to the beginning of building your customer avatar, which is your basic demographics. So, that's going to be your age, gender, location, occupation, what is their income level. I would say personality traits, I would consider that basic demographics as well. I don't know about you.
Well, so what personality traits? Like, give me a few.
Well, think about, are they adventurous? Are they independent?
Yeah, I agree. I would lump that under basic demographics.
Yeah, this is the basic you should know about your target audience. Now, I have a personality trait, Vivian, that I want to talk about and I want to bring up because I know the only people who remember this is marketers, because we were drilled, like this was drilled into us in college, but I don't know if anyone else ever thinks about this. And it's the technology adoption curve.
Yeah, so expand on that a lot, and just so you guys know going into this, when she explained this, just know I am a lagger. I know this about myself. I identified myself as soon as I heard it in marketing class, I was like, "Oh, that's me." Even in my 20s, that's me.
Okay, so the technology adoption curve, you have this bell curve. The beginning of the bell curve is going to be your innovators. They are the people that, as soon as a new technology comes out, they have it. They know everything about it. They are invested. Then you have your early adopters. They're the people who, okay, it just came out. You know what? I've heard some things from innovators and I'm into it. So I'm going to also buy this technology. Now you have the early majority. So we're going up the bell curve. Your early majority is going to be the people who have done research. They've been hearing about this new thing and they're like, okay, there's enough things for me. I've read up on it a little bit. I'm ready to invest. I'm all in, right? Your late majority, now we're over the bell curve. So your late majority are the people who are like, there's a good majority of information out there about this product now. We feel comfortable with it. We're willing to invest in it. Let's do it. Then you got the laggards who are at the bottom of the bell curve. And they're the ones who have waited probably like more than a year,
I would
maybe
be
like 2 years.
I would be mildly offended if you weren't my sister that you were calling me out on being at the very bottom, at the tail end. But I think that's I love that you included this, Chelsea, because it is something that even as marketers, we are taught to think about people in this type of, the way they use technology because it changes so much of what we do. For example, if I am trying to attract if I'm building my customer avatar and I identify that this particular person, Bob, okay, I'm gonna go with a very unique name. Bob here is an early adapter, right?
Yes.
So he's not quite an innovator, so he needs a little more convincing to try my product, right? But that allows me to then craft the messaging a little better because I understand, like, hey, he's not a lagger. He's not super risk adverse. He's not trying to like never risk anything. But by the same token, he's not as like an innovator is willing to just like, oh, just
Test
give
it
me the
out.
thing, let me test it out. Right. I'm also look at it this way for innovators, they're also a little more okay, I want to say, with things not being completely flushed out yet. So if you're still having like little kinks and stuff, I think they're a little more graceful about that than a lagger who's like, "Y'all been doing this stuff for, how many years this product's been on the market, you still haven't figured this out?" So, there are just a lot of undertones to it, and so identifying your customer avatar and seeing where they're at in there does help tremendously.
Yeah. And I'm glad you explained it in a way that's not about technology because, yes, it is about it's the technology adoption curve, but the undertones you can relate to anything. Like you said, laggards are going to be way more risk adverse than early majority or early adapters. Vivian, which one do you think I am?
I think you are smack dab in between an early majority and a late majority, okay? So you're, like, right at the peak of the bell curve because I think you're not gonna be the one that's, like, doing the early innovation stuff, but you're gonna catch on to a trend or to something a little sooner than the late majority, right? So you're kind of in between there. You're gonna let people, try it out. You're still gonna be there early enough to where you could say like, "Hey, the trend hasn't passed. It's still a very new thing that people are doing." Um, but I is that an accurate assessment? How would
I
you
think
assess
so.
yourself?
No, I think that would be correct.
I think if you were a innovator, you would, die
Yeah.
because you are not good you are not good with, like, risk.
No,
You see
I'm
what I'm
not.
saying? Yeah.
Mhm. Yes, that was correct, that was accurate. I wouldn't have said I was gonna die, but thank you.
I just don't think it's conducive to your mental health and, like
Yes, that's fair. So now we've done basic demographics. Let's talk about psychographic traits. So, first and foremost, interests and hobbies. You need to know, surprise, surprise, y'all, but you need to know what your target audience is interested in.
what they're doing, and this is such a big one because let me just, use a very oversimplified example of this, okay? If someone's, hobbies are, like, television or Netflix or something, that's a very different person than someone who is hiking all the time, okay? And I'm not trying to group people, that people are multidimensional, I understand you could be Netflix and chill some days and then be super adventurous other days, but my point here being, if I know that my customer avatar that I'm trying to reach is more of a Netflix and chill person, if they love movies, if they love, series, stuff like that, it would stand to reason that you do some OOH, out of home advertising, meaning streaming services.
Sometimes even the professionals mess up. Here, Vivian is actually talking about OTT, over the top advertising, and not OOH, which is out of home advertising. So, OTT is going to be your marketing on streaming services. OOH advertising is more like billboards.
So if I place an ad for my boutique or whatever I'm doing, um, on that out of home network, that means that I'm reaching them while they're sitting there watching. So all of these components are really, I think they start to mesh and they start to kind of put this puzzle together for you to where you're able to make decisions a lot quicker and a lot easier.
Yes, absolutely. We also have motivations and fears. So I have an example of this. So, Vivian, for my senior thesis in college, which was 6 years ago,
Dang. I'm joking.
I was about to say, excuse me, when did you go to college? Yeah, exactly.
I'm trying to
But
remember when I graduated, 2005? It's been a hot minute.
I was 7. Sorry. Okay, y'all. I went to college. I had a senior thesis. The senior thesis was about creating a marketing plan and essentially rebranding a specific business. So we went in depth on the interests and hobbies and fears. We created a customer avatar for this target audience for this brand. And I am guesstimating here because I don't exactly remember, because again, it was 6 years ago and I don't have any of these files anymore. I don't have any room on my computer. I had to delete them all. But they were young to middle age adults. They're the life of the party. They are the early majority. They need to know the new popular spots. They're very about their local community. They want to be popular. They fear not being noticed. So that's the fear. They fear that they're not being noticed. Their motivation is they want to be popular. They want to be seen as the cool kids, right? So, funnily enough, Vivian, which this kind of, we're kind of going off track, but I have to tell this story. Vivian, I recently saw this brand at Harris Teeter, and I have opinions.
So what are those opinions?
So, it's alcoholic ice cream. Okay.
Okay.
That's,
Which is pretty new.
it's pretty new. alcoholic ice cream is like a premium thing, right? Because there's a whole process to it. It's expensive. So they are a premium brand. They're doing a very bad job at branding themselves as a premium brand, though. They have a premium price. They're expensive. But even their packaging is just not very good, and it just doesn't scream premium. I mean, the packaging is just white cardboard. You slap the sticker of the business logo on it.
Out of curiosity, how much are they charging for a pint?
$14.
Really?
Yes,
All
because
right.
I saw it and I was like, "Ooh, maybe, for old time's sake, I'll get a pint." And I was like, "I'm not getting a pint." Absolutely not.
Out of curiosity to our listeners out there, would you pay $14 for a pint of ice cream if it was infused with alcohol? Yes or no? Just tell us yes or no. This is fascinating to me for a couple different reasons. I would stand to reason because correct me if I'm wrong, Chelsea, there are not a lot of alcoholic ice creams on grocery store shelves right now.
No. Now, there are more businesses than you think there are,
No, right.
but they are very hard to find. And
Well, I
this is the first time I've ever seen one at a grocery store.
Okay, so here locally in Charleston, we have a van that drives around. It's called Booze Pops. They're freeze pops, and, they infuse them with alcohol. Okay, well, but it's not in stores. They actually have a truck that drives around, and they do charge I think it's $9 for a thing of
I
this.
think so, yeah.
Yeah, and so it is a little more expensive, but my point being, you don't have a whole lot of competition in grocery stores, and so it's interesting that they're probably the most expensive ice cream on the shelf, rightfully so, because 'cause they're having to put alcohol in it, but also the packaging should be meshing with that, and I'm interested in the fact that you said they're in Harris Teeter. I get it, that's a lot more, distribution for them. Curious to know if they tried partnering with, like, a Whole Foods or something like that where it was a little more of the people that were going there wouldn't be gawking at that price, and it'd be more in line with what they're spending on groceries, right?
Yeah. I will say they weren't in the ice cream aisle. They were in the alcohol aisle. They had their own little, like, freezer.
Freezer.
Mhm.
Oh,
And the
interesting.
freezer was branded, and the freezer branding looked decent. Like, it looked good, but when you actually go to get the product,
Yeah.
it's just white cardboard.
And so let's redirect this back to the initial thing that you were
Yes.
talking about. You introduced this, brand and all of that because what you were saying is part of your project that you worked on your senior year for this particular brand was to develop the customer avatar, and one of the big things you guys looked at was that motivations and fears, which I think a lot of times gets dropped, but this can be so it could be a North Star for a small business for many different reasons. Once if you know what motivates somebody, you can change your entire ad to, to really hit that home. Also, you could use fears in the same type of way. If I know that, I'm my target audience, my customer avatar is a single mom who is short on time, and one of her biggest fears is that she's not gonna be able to, let's say, to be able to track what her children are doing on the phone, right? She needs an app to be able to do that, and I'm the one selling her the app, then I can easily, like, play into that and, like, talk to those fears and be like, "Hey, we know you have other more important things to worry about, like putting food on the table, going to work every day, attending extracurricular activities. This is the one thing you don't need to worry about, and it's because we offer you the solution for $2.99 a month."
Mm.
There
I
you go.
love that example.
You know what we keep hearing from you fellow SOBs?
Small-owned businesses.
Yes, small-owned businesses. You guys are so overwhelmed with your marketing.
And we totally get that. You didn't start your bakery or your boutique store or your jewelry business to become full-time marketers or content creators or ad designers. Marketing can feel really overwhelming.
Oh, yeah. Then you SOBs try to go figure it out because that's what you do. You Google stuff, watch videos, and end up spending hours trying to figure it out, only to sometimes end up more confused.
This is my full-time job, and trust me, the way marketing is talked about in the World Wide Web can be really misleading.
And let's not even talk about trying to hire an agency for help. It's daunting. They don't know your small business like you do, and so they're not as effective. And let's not even talk about the cost.
We understand why a lot of you SOBs feel ready to give up, and that's why we even bothered to create the Seasoned Marketer.
That's also why we started the S.O.B community. We wanted to create something practical and affordable for people who can't or simply don't want to outsource their marketing.
Right, so for $50 a month, members can get free downloads and templates, step-by-step tutorial videos, a weekly live Q&A call with both of us, marketing professionals, and other SOBs. You also become a part of a supportive community to bounce ideas off of.
It's like having a boardroom of like-minded individuals and marketing professionals where you can talk through all of your marketing questions
without having to pay boardroom marketing agency prices.
So if you're tired of wasting time trying to figure it all out on your own,
or spending money on things that don't work, join us over at the S.O.B community.
We'll help you turn your marketing stress into marketing success. And hey, it's just $50 a month.
So click the link in the description to join, and we can't wait to see you in the S.O.B community.
Now back to the episode.
So we have motivations and fears. Now we can move on to goals and aspirations. So what is your target audience striving for? Like, what are they trying to achieve, both in their personal life and their professional life?
Okay, interesting. Why are we dividing professional and personal?
Because you want the full picture of someone. You know, your personal goals and your professional goals are different. That's why you want to know both of them.
Yeah, and I think it just plays into the more information you have about somebody, the better. And I hope that you guys take all this to heart. We're not asking you to make this stuff up. I think at the end of the day, when you're thinking about your small business, your product, or the services that you offer, think about who it's truly helping. Right? And so for us, one of the ways that we've used this is our target audience overall is small business owners. But when we pull out that customer avatar, it's actually more granular than just small business owner. For us, we could be talking to that small business owner that has a full-time job and they're on the side building this business. Okay, well, we have the marketing resources that's going to help them to eventually be able to leave that job, right? Because they're growing their small business with that. But getting that full picture of like both their aspirations personally and professionally can help to, I don't know, create that messaging.
Absolutely. I have two little examples. They're not as in-depth as what you just did. Thank you, Vivian. But I just have written down, maybe they want to support locally more often, or maybe they want to take better care of their body.
Yeah. Well, I think those are huge. They're very, I think it changes the way you approach people.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's the one thing I always use the example of, like, when you're selling to somebody and you basically it's like, if you're selling them off the rip without knowing anything about that person, it's almost like you're standing on one side of the street, they're on the other side of the street, and you're yelling at them like, "Hey, come buy my product," whatever. It's like, that's not gonna lure people over, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna be when you start speaking to them about all of this stuff that we're saying, when you're talking to them about their goals and aspirations, when you're leaning into, I think the next one, Chelsea, we're gonna talk about is pain points.
Exactly.
So what does pain points look like? How does somebody go about including that into their customer avatar?
This one should be, well, I don't want to say it should be super simple, but what challenges or problems does your avatar face that your product or service can solve. You know, what's the whole purpose of your product or your service? I can give you an example. The Design Demon, she sells, well, she sells a bunch of stuff, but her primary thing is jewelry.
Mhm.
And I like weird jewelry. Okay. I want to show off my Hot Topic limited to personality, but there are not many brands.
Excuse me, are those not complete opposites? Hot Topic and Limited Too?
No, you wouldn't understand.
I feel like you're a mashup.
Well, that's the point. That's the point. There's not many brands that can give you both in a combination.
And
So
so
I don't have those that many options to fill those needs, but you know who does? The Design Demon. She's working on my pain points and I appreciate that.
she's she's luring all the people that are very Hot Topic but still Limited Too.
Mhm.
I love
I
it.
would like to just say that that is her explanation of her brand, okay?
She legit puts that out there. Well, and yes, and so that is the thing I love about when you're talking about all of this stuff. This isn't made up marketing crap, y'all. This is stuff that really works because, as Chelsea said, she used that terminology. She waved that white flag and she was like, if you're a Hot Topics girl, you little kinky, but you also got the good girl side to you, limited too. I'm right over here. I make jewelry for you, right? So I love that she has defined her audience so well that she knows what their pain points are, which is there aren't very many jewelry makers or very many options out there for people who want a mixture of the two, who want a little bit of spiciness with a little bit of, angel. I don't the other thing that I think we don't talk enough about with pain points and why including them into your customer avatar can make such a big difference is what a way to make somebody feel seen.
Yes.
When you get that down pat, when you are able to articulate to a potential customer exactly what their pain point is, and they're like, "Holy crap, somebody gets me. You
Yeah.
get me. You see me, you understand, and you're selling me a product or a service. You have the solution that I need."
Yes, thank you. I love that. So I also have brand values alignment. Let me explain this a little bit because that sounds kind of confusing. It's basically, you know, your brand and your target audience, do your values align? Like what values does your target audience have? What values will this customer avatar, this persona have? And you know, does it align with your business? Because that can be very important too. Maybe you're not aligned. That might just mean that you don't focus that much on it.
I see this a lot more on the side of Instagram that I'm on, okay? I'm on
Okay.
the side where all of the girly pop mommies are now making, like, sourdough bread and all of that because, we're all wanting to use less chemicals or have less chemicals in our stuff, right? And so they're learning how to go out and make homemade bread, they're trying recipes that are a little more whole foods and less like, sauces. They're making their sauces and doing all this stuff. And so or they're AKA me raising chickens, right? And so they have organic eggs and all this. I think the reason I bring that up is because on that side of Instagram that I'm on, I'm seeing this a lot with the brand alignment in the values. If I choose to use a new shampoo, I'm looking at the product that they use or the ingredients that they use in that shampoo. And so therefore, if you are targeting that group of people and if I am your customer avatar, then you better make sure that your ingredients kinda align with that,
Yeah.
right? And so I think it does help with giving you that full perspective and also with ensuring that you're putting your money where your mouth is. If you're saying that you're offering, a clean alternative to something, well, it better be clean because people are gonna be, checking that. So, but that relates to not just that particular industry or segment of people, it relates to, I think, everything else.
Great example, Vivian. I love your you calling yourself out with your chickens. But anyways,
Actually, I'm
next,
calling my husband out with the chickens because I don't got nothing to do with
well,
them.
that's a good point. That's cool. That's a good point. So next we have digital and location habits. So basically, where are they? Both online and just in general. What platforms are they using? How are they consuming information online? This is one, just very important for your marketing because you need to know where your target audience is to be able to reach them. But two, it just helps you understand the type of content that they're consuming.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it helps too with, like, we recently unfortunately just had those fires out in, California. If you know geographically where the base of your people are, like, if you look at your analytics and you're like, "Man, a lot of my people are in that geographic area," it helps with that communication, but on top of it, I love that you brought in that you're talking about the digital space too. Like, where are people on that digital space? Because it does change, everything that you're able to push out to reach them.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up like geographically as well. Locations also try to go a little more in depth with this. Are they going to is your target audience, is your customer avatar going to a Starbucks or are they going to a local coffee shop?
Yeah. Leaning into that, Chelsea, because those details are really important, and this is the last component to this, language and tone. Right? Now, this is kind of a funny example, but, it plays into it quite a bit because, as I mentioned earlier, Chelsea and I have a 15-year age gap. The language you use with me can be completely different than the language you use with her, and that's just because of our generational difference. So, we always joke because there are times that she'll use words and I'm like, "I don't know what that means." So if someone was using that terminology in an ad, I would very quickly tap out and be like, "That ad is not for me. I am not their, target audience." So it is important to include that into your customer avatar.
Yeah, and also this should have an impact on your brand voice. So, better understanding the language and tone of your target audience is probably going to impact the tone that you use as a brand. And it should.
Some of my favorite reels right now on Instagram are when they get a casino did this, and who was the other one that did this recently? It was, maybe a museum or a library.
I know what you're talking about. It was a library.
It was
At
a
least the one that
library.
I just saw was a library.
So it was a 60, 70-year-old man, and they had gotten him to use the lingo that kids are using this day, and he's, like, walking around the library showing them I think they had just done, like, a facelift to it. So they were showing the new spots where they can hang and do all this stuff, and he it
They did
had me
not say hang, okay?
okay, what did they say?
Well, I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay, it was not the word hang,
No, it
apparently.
wasn't the word hang.
But it cracked me up because it was such a juxtaposition of a older gentleman that has no clue what these words mean, or maybe they taught it to him, but this is not how he would talk in everyday life, and yet he's giving you a tour of the library using the hip lingo. So, it's those are my favorite videos right now, and I think it's because there's such a weird distortion of, like, what the person is talking
Yeah.
about and the lingo and the tone and the language they're using against visually who they are.
But it's a great example of knowing your target audience, and they want to bring in Gen Z to enjoy the library. So I'm sure they got a Gen Z employee to write all the to write the script for that video. I think at some point he's talking about the outside, like they have tables outside around the library, and he says, if you need to touch grass after your mentee bee, perfect. Which, Vivian, do you know what any of that means?
Touch grass, basically get back to nature, right?
Yeah. After your
Okay.
mentee bee.
When you have a mental breakdown.
Look at you. Okay. Good
I'm
for you.
getting better at it, yeah.
I love that for you.
I'm hoping by the age of 50, I'm gonna be a guru
In what? In Gen Z? It's going to be Gen Alpha then.
in Gen Alpha.
I know
Remember, I'm a
some.
lagger. I'm a lagger, so I'm not gonna be on the alpha train until
I know some Gen Alpha terms, but not that many. So I'm
What's one Gen Alpha term, you know? Just one.
Ohio, skibbity,
Oh, okay.
skibbity
What's
toilet.
Ohio? What's Ohio? Besides a state.
Ohio is either when something's cool or not cool. It depends on how you're using it.
So you could use it both ways?
Yeah, I personally would only use it in a bad way, but like
Oh,
that's
like, that's so
Ohio.
Ohio?
Mhm.
Like, this whole conversation is so Ohio to me. Because we're redefining words, y'all. That's why there's a Webster's dictionary, okay? And we like before urbandictionary.com, there was good old Webster.
Okay.
All right, so
Okay, millennial.
going back to our topic here, let me also use an example though of how this shifts very mildly for some small businesses. Take, for example, us. One of the things that we realized going into 2025 is when we were writing captions, Chelsea and I had the very upfront conversation about both of us being on board with just writing the way we talk. And it's been a shift. And the reason we're doing that shift, though, is because the type of small business owner that we want to welcome into our S.O.B, small owned business community, right? Our paid membership community is the small business owner that's not looking for a stuffy place. They want to go in there, be able to have real conversations about stuff. And some of those real conversations are not tailored, they're not polished.
Yeah.
And so we decided we don't want our communication anymore to be polished. That's very hard for me because I still work in a corporate setting where I think I still have to do a lot of that polishing. So it takes for me a longer time to come out of it. Chelsea's much better at it because she already naturally just kind of like writes that way. But it was a conscious decision that we both had to make moving forward on how that tone was gonna change within our communication.
And it's not even just like wording or tone, it's the type of words. Well, that's wording, but the type of words we use, like, sure, we're experts, marketing experts. I do quotations because, again, marketing is such a changing and evolving field. There's always something new. So, as experts, we have to constantly be reading up on stuff. But, we know the big buzzwords. We're not going to use them because we're not here to say, oh, we're experts and we know these fancy words. We're here to say, hey, we're experts. Let us, I don't want to say dumb it down, but let us just talk to you real talk, no nonsense, no extra stuff so that you can understand this, so you can do it on your own.
Yeah, and also I think what that does too is it gets rid of this, confusion
Yes.
because let's all be real, we can easily and we were having, earlier we did a live with our friend Jordan Ilderton, and what's interesting is, she coaches, some of these small business owners. And what you find is sometimes they could be talking about the same things, but they're not. Okay, they're using the same word, they're not talking about the same thing because they're not defining it in the same way. So when someone says, "My marketing is not successful," she goes in and she's like, "Well, let's look at it." And when you break it down, the way they're looking or quote deeming success might be that they have 100,000 followers on Instagram. Well, maybe their marketing is working, but it's just not relating to follower count.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where defining gets extremely important. So the tone, the words that you choose to use, and also I'm going to tell you as someone who has done a ton with communication, internal and external, whether that be for PR or internal corporate stuff, the words you decide not to use says a lot. And I think more often than not, we forget that. We think, "Oh, well, I included this. Okay, but what did you exclude? Did you purposefully exclude that?" Which I'm 100% on board with that. I sometimes purposefully do not use certain terminology because of either the negative connotation or an idea that it might build in somebody's head that I don't want them to even, like, go down that route. So, sorry, that was a huge tangent that I went on, but
I don't think that was a tangent. I think that was a great example. I think that was good. Well, Vivian, do you think we could do the TLDL?
yeah, babe, I said let's roll right into that TLDL.
Let's do the TLDL. So, if you skipped ahead to this chapter, the TLDL, too long, didn't listen, that's great. I'm gonna give you a synopsis. Go back and listen to the entire episode. It'll make a lot more sense when you hear the entire conversation. But this week on the S.O.B Marketing Podcast, we talked about customer avatars, why they're important, how to create them. It's important to understand your target audience. When creating a customer avatar, you want to know basic demographics, personality traits, psychographic traits. You want to know their goals, aspirations, their pain points, their values, their digital habits, and their location and tone. So if you want to hear what all of those things are, then you're going to have to go listen to the episode. But just real quick, that's what it is. Thank you again for listening, and make sure that you follow or subscribe, like, do all the things, leave a review. And if you have a topic you want us to talk about, let us know. Leave it in the comment section or send us a DM on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok.
Smoke signal us, anything.
Don't do smoke signals. I don't know those. Don't do Morse code. I don't know Morse code either. Or you could send us an email at help@theseasonmarketer.com. And y'all go be the best SOB that you can be.